Walking barefoot on the streets, she leaves her home behind, her feet sore and achy. As she hunches over, the shuddering and chaotic world around her leaves her shoulders bared. The cold fall winds blow ice across her face and fingers, leaving her feeling blue and numb. As she hastily walks, she trips over her own feet, struggling to catch her breath. Hoping someone will take notice of her, her skin bears angry violet and sickening yellow-green bruises that even her high-collared shirt cannot hide. The thundering sky adds to her discomfort, and her clothing feels heavy and stiff as she scurries around in the middle of the night, her shaky hands and trembling legs urging her to find anyone who will listen to her. As she catches sight of the first person, her movements become erratic. She rushes towards them, yelling and clawing at their garments. Despite feeling her touch, they appear bewildered, unable to perceive or hear her. With her own eyes, she can see that they are alive and well, breathing and whole beneath her grasp. Their warmth and steadiness is palpable, yet their panic-stricken eyes remain fixed on nothingness. Undeterred, she implores them for aid, but they brush her off without a second thought. Struggling to maintain her balance, she stumbles over a curb before encountering the next person. Standing before them like a desperate animal, she beseeches, "Please, help me." Nevertheless, they too ignore her completely, linking arms with their partner and continuing on their way as if she were invisible. But she knows she exists. The aches and pains of her body make it all too real. As the third person walks past her, a sense of unease washes over her. Her mind becomes a jumble of chaotic thoughts that only grow more bitter as she is left alone to deal with them. Her fingers fidget with the cross that rests within the folds of her scarf. It may be a beautiful trinket, but she despises it more than anything else in the world, for it has never brought her the redemption she desperately seeks. Nevertheless, she cannot bear to part with it, and holds onto it as if it were her last beacon of hope. Despite the relentless rain, she paces around with restless energy. Her unsteady path causes her to slosh down the street, her trousers torn beyond repair. Her coat is a mess of claw marks and holes, and crimson liquid trickles down her side as she limps past an old funeral home. As she gazes at the stained and broken glass, she suddenly sees him. She blinks once, then twice, and suddenly feels hands on her throat. However, she realizes that he doesn't have hands, only flesh-toned reminders of decay. A quiet voice whispers in her ear, "Where are you going, my love?" Her chest feels burdened by the weight of the necklace, which lies like a boulder against her skin. She struggles to loosen the grip of his fingers around her neck, her breaths coming in quick gasps. As black spots flicker at the edge of her vision, she holds on to the hope that he will release her soon. But this time, he doesn't. "You abandoned me, my love?" His voice hisses as his grip tightens around her throat. She writhes in agony, letting out desperate, raspy cries while struggling against the monster's grasp. Hatred towards the figure she once adored courses through her veins. "You left me, my love," he repeats with a menacing purr. Rage resonates in his tone as he carves a nail down her cheek, leaving a bloody trail towards the glimmering necklace beneath her scarf. The beast is furious, and she can't help but whimper in fear. He releases his grip on her throat, causing her to shiver and gasp for air, curling up to protect her body. Her necklace is forcefully ripped off, leaving the chain to dig into her youthful flesh. The dark lines left behind ooze with a syrup that the beast eagerly licks off his lips. "Little mouse!" the beast jeers, baring his sharp teeth in the all-consuming darkness surrounding her. "You know who I am, yet you dare to run from me?" His laughter is more akin to a howl in her ears. She cowers on the ground, filled with fear and despair. "Please forgive me," she begs. "Forgive me." Suddenly, she is hurled backwards, her back slamming painfully against the brick wall behind her, causing her to emit a strained groan. She thinks frantically that there is no way to escape. How foolish she was. The beast coos and beckons her to come closer, but she trembles and shields herself with her arms. It roars, demanding her presence, and her sobs fill the deafening silence that ensues. The beast hisses, reminding her that even though she has left this world, she cannot hide from it. "Stay back!" she shouts, thrusting her palms out and surprising the creature, causing it to lose balance. She takes advantage of the opportunity and flees through the streets, alleys, and countless shops, hoping to lose the one thing that haunts her dreams. The mere thought of him makes her whimper. She had believed she loved him, and that he loved her in return. However, she had been disastrously mistaken, as the one she fell in love with was not a man, but a creature, a demon that thrived in the darkness. As she collapses on her doorstep, her humanity becomes the prey of the thing that haunts her. Despite the terrors she has endured, heartache persists, and she mutters, "Please, please." Memories assail her mind. His loving caresses and kisses, his scowls and rough hands, and all she wants is to escape. The beast whispers to her, "My love, little mouse." "Stop it!" she screams with a thick, lethargic voice, as if she is half asleep. With great force, she pulls the door and twists the knob until it rattles and pops off. Lost in her turmoil, she almost fails to notice the sound of sirens. An ambulance can be seen in the distance, speeding towards her street, filling her chest with hope. Perhaps they can see her, hear her cries for help. As the paramedics rush out of their vehicle, she observes how they ignore her, even as she smiles at them and tightly grasps the doorknob with her bony hands. Despite sensing her presence, the first paramedic enters without acknowledging her, focused on the task at hand and not delaying for what appears to be nothing. The sound of sirens fills the air, growing louder by the second. Cop cars and a black SUV screech to a stop outside her house. The shouting coming from the back of her home sends chills down her spine as she watches in disbelief. He's walked out in cuffs, battered and bruised, struggling against the men dragging him away. He doesn't see her as he's thrown into the back of one of the vehicles. She twitches, the doorknob falling to the ground as she realizes what's happening. A weight lifts from her shoulders, and she feels lighter, happier, freer. But her relief is short-lived as the stone walls of her home start to ooze and squelch with bloody rivulets. She knows in her mind that it's over. The door hangs open, like the maw of some devil, as two paramedics rush in. She sits on the grass, out of their way. As they push her through the doorway and into the ambulance, her matted hair and broken limbs are unmistakable. It's her. A paramedic drapes a thick white sheet over her gory face and declares, "Time of death, 9:01 p.m. That's absurd, she thinks. I left for my walk and escaped when the clock read 9:01, but her reality quickly disintegrates, leaving her screaming and weeping uncontrollably. No one hears her. Her neighbor approaches a woman in blue, Eddie, a small, elderly man she has known for years. His eyes are red-rimmed, and he sniffs into a handkerchief as he stammers, "I heard screaming again. It was worse than usual, and the noises... Dear God, the noises." He weeps openly, clearly traumatized. Eddie looks at the ambulance with a tinge of sadness in his eyes, his attention not on the woman crumpled on the lawn but on the lifeless body inside. The chest remains still, the body devoid of any sign of life. The woman in blue standing next to him offers sympathy, encouraging him to take his time. Eddie recounts the events that led to the ambulance's arrival, his voice trembling as he describes how he had heard the woman cry for help for the first time. He had rushed to the kitchen to call 911, but by the time he had reached her, it was too late. Overwhelmed by emotion, Eddie breaks down, and the woman in blue consoles him, patting his shoulder as he tries to compose himself. Concerned for justice, Eddie asks about the man responsible, demanding to know what will happen to him. The officer's response is blunt. The perpetrator will be locked up for the rest of his life, ensuring he never harms anyone again. Silence fills the air, and in the midst of it, a searing pain courses through her body, tearing her apart in every way imaginable. She cries out in agony as her limbs snap and break, remembering vividly the moment of her death. As she releases her grip, she senses the lingering presence of the knife in her chest. But then, standing up and closing her eyes, she feels the soft tickle of grass under her feet and a sudden surge of warmth enveloping her. Relief washes over her, leaving her with a sense of emptiness. Opening her eyes again, she blinks as if seeing the world for the first time. With each step towards the light, she moves forward, leaving behind the weight of the past